Hello again. It's a very strange thing, but whenever I say anything even vaguely in favour of Islam, I manage to irritate quite a few people. I find this odd because, of course, Islam and Christianity, to say nothing of Judaism, are so similar that finding the differences between them is not at all easy. I think that part of the problem is that people are sometimes so eager to denounce Muslims and Jews that they spend more time ferreting around in obscure passages from those religions than they do studying the New Testament and Jesus' teaching. I can't help noticing that people have emailed me and commented here with astonishingly obscure verses from the Talmud or the Hadith, but they never actually seem to stop to look at the New Testament and see what's contained in that. The fact is, you can examine odd verses out of context in any of the three Abrahamic religions and use them to show how wicked are those that follow that particular faith. The similarities between the three religions, though, are so obvious that it amazes me that so many members of each faith express such distaste for the other two. To take one great similarity between them, all three religions have a very strange requirement which you won't find in any other religions in the world, that animals must be slaughtered in a peculiar fashion, having the blood drained from them as they die. No other religion, as I say, shares this basic requirement of Christianity, Judaism and Islam. This alone should be enough to suggest to an impartial observer that there is a strong connection between them. I thought that we might try a little experiment to show what I mean about the followers of these religions being unfamiliar with their own scriptures. I'm guessing that most viewers here are, at least nominally, Christians, or if not most, then many. Christians, that is, rather than Muslims and Jews. I don't think all that many Muslims watch my channel. There are a few Jews. Let me give half a dozen quotations from the Quran, the Hebrew Bible and the Gospels, and see if viewers can identify which come from Christian scripture and which from the other two Abrahamic faiths. Ready? Here we go then. Love your neighbour as yourself. Where is that from? What about the meek shall inherit the earth? Or my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Anybody care to guess whether they're from the Christian scriptures or somewhere else? Here's a good quotation. If you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. And here's another one about swords. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. What about this one? I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. One final quotation should make the point. The angel Gabriel announces to a girl called Mary that she's going to have a baby sent by God. He says, "O Mary, God has chosen you and purified you and has chosen you above all women of all the nations of the world." To which she replies, "How shall this be, since I have never known a man?" I'm curious to know if any supposed Christians, or indeed people who believe themselves to be opposed to Islam, were able correctly to identify the above quotations from the scriptures of the three faiths. The first one, about loving your neighbour as yourself, is of course from the Torah. And indeed the Talmud describes that particular commandment as the very core of the Torah's message, and by extension the key message in Judaism. It may be found in Leviticus chapter 19, verses 8 to 19. The meek shall inherit the earth is from Psalm 37, verse 11. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? We read that obviously in the Gospels, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is also from Psalm 22. Of course, Jesus said these things, but he was merely quoting from the Hebrew scriptures, so I think it's fair to say that these are Jewish teachings. What about all this business about swords? They seem quite important to the person who's advising people to sell their clothes so they can buy a sword, and then telling them he didn't come to bring peace but was bringing a sword. Some people might assume that this is something to do with Islam, the sword of Islam. It certainly sounds a little warlike. It was, of course, Jesus who said these things in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 34 to 36, Luke, chapter 22, verses 36 to 38. It was also Jesus who said that he had come to turn a man against his father and generally cause trouble in families. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 35 onward. Finally, what of the account of the Annunciation, when the angel Gabriel told Mary she was to bear a child, even though she was a virgin? This is, of course, from the Quran, the Surah of Mary, verses 20 and 21. I suspect that not many Christians would have got all these right, because very often they seem not to realise how much of their own beliefs is also to be found in the Torah and the Quran. In fact, Mary is mentioned more in the Quran than she is in the whole of the New Testament. I don't know how many people are aware that the Virgin Mary is the premier figure, female figure in Islam. She epitomises what a woman should be. Jesus is also a great prophet in Islam. By the way, I mentioned at the beginning that the three Abrahamic faiths are peculiar in that they all require animals to be slaughtered for food in a particular fashion, generally known as kosher or halal. Many Christians don't realise that their religion binds them to this practice, and this too shows how little many of them know of their own scriptures. In a meeting in Jerusalem shortly after Jesus was executed, all the leaders of the church met together. Now this was a very big affair, and the decisions they made there bind the church to this very day. The greatest of the apostles were there, Peter and Paul, and also a brother of Jesus was present. They wanted to decide what non-Jewish followers of Jesus should be obliged to do. You can read about this in the book of Acts, which is really a continuation of the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 15, verse 29 tells of the commands which are laid upon the followers of Jesus who are not Jews. They're not subject to the Jewish dietary laws of purity, such as not eating shellfish or not eating pigs. Bacon is quite acceptable to Christians, obviously. However, there is one rule which is listed as being as important as the prohibition on theft and fornication. This is that you should not eat any meat that still has the blood in it, or meat of any animal that has been strangled. Every Christian today has an obligation to buy meat which he or she will eat only from a kosher or halal butcher. This is what I mean when I say that the three religions are so similar, and also illustrates perfectly how little Christians who are critical of Islam or Judaism actually know about their own religion.